All right. Yeah. I'm just pulling up some reference images on my phone because if I pull them up on my computer, the bitrate goes to shit. Okay. I also have to go open a new canvas to do studies. So for the warm up today, I decided while I was having dinner that the our warm up study for today would be for Don Bluth. You know, why wouldn't it be Don Bluth? You know, if you've watched anything animated from, you know, anywhere, you've definitely seen his art. So I figure I'm just gonna study a couple of Bluth's, well-known kind of classic character designs. Starting with none other than Princess Daphne from Dragon's Lair. Just giving the character model a quick look over. Bluth's style is very gestural. No, thankfully, Daphne's design is very classical pinup, which is thankfully one of the things that I'm used to drawing to an extent, which is why I started with her. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure the line placement is good. Just got like this weird, super gaudy earring. God, she has the biggest, like, most 80s hair you could imagine. But, you know, it's par for the course. When I was, when I was a kid, my dad had a friend who owned a bar, and every so often my dad would go there just to hang out with the guy. My dad's not really much of a drinker, but he'd go there every so often, and the guy had a like arcade in the back of his bar because the way that his restaurant was set up was the front end was, you know, bar kind of like more casual dining stuff. Then the back end was more like a family oriented restaurant and it was mostly like a pizza place. So you had all of that stuff in the back. There was like a little corner that had arcade cabinets and a pinball machine because the guy was very like old school. And that was the first I played Dragon's Lair one of the times that we went to that my dad went to go visit this friend of his, and I think we easily spent, I don't know, probably about $15 just playing this arcade cabinet. And I remember my dad asking the guy, like, you know, where the hell did you even find a cabinet for this game? And the guy had bought it from another friend of his whose restaurant uh, had gone out of business earlier that year, and the guy had one, but the one that he bought from the guy wasn't a fixture that was in the dude's restaurant. It was like part of a personal collection. I will say, Don knew exactly what he was doing when it came to Daphne's design. Granted, my first experience with this game, I was, geez, like 7 when I played it at my dad's friend's place. So I didn't have any context for it. But in retrospect, and you know, as an adult looking back, I can understand the appeal for like, you know, a teenage boy. I could see how a teenager in the 80s could see this arcade cabinet and lose a week's allowance playing it. Boy, there's a lot of familiar shapes in the silhouette of her dress. I cannot confirm nor deny whether or not Don Bluth worked on Disney's Hercules. I probably could. I just don't feel like looking it up on Wikipedia real quick. But there's a lot of shapes in her hair and in her dress that I can see in Meg. But also, it's Don Bluth. Like, if you've ever seen any animation project that Don Bluth has ever worked on, then you know that there's only like four characters in his entire repertoire, right? And that's either, the barest of bears, the twinkest of twinks, hot pinup girls, and hideous old hags. Like that's the whole spectrum of his adult characters. And then children, it's just like chubby little girls and knobbly boys, and then animals. That's the whole of the Don Bluth character spectrum. But I say that with the utmost like appreciation and respect because like obviously I grew up watching a lot of this stuff as most people did. And the fact of the matter is, he communicates the characters' personalities very well in their posing and their overall designs. I have to flip her the other way so I don't make the. I may have made her head too small now that I'm thinking about it. But this is very much a quick study. Hey, Fox, welcome in. Thank you, Mr. Rush, for the lurk. Yeah, so to fill you guys in on what we're doing to start, we're doing a set of quick character studies from the designs of Don Bluth. It's going all right. I just had dinner, so I started a little bit late. Decided to order some Chinese. Yeah, for tonight's studies, I pre-selected three characters to do from Don Bluth's catalog. So I picked Daphne from Dragon's Lair. The other two I'm going to do are Arthur from The Sword and the Stone, because that's my one of my favorite Disney films of all time is The Sword and the Stone. And then the third character that I picked is another favorite of mine, even though that film horrified me as a child because of how some things were drawn. Third character is going to be Nicodemus from The Secret of Nim. Let's see. So much of Arthur's anatomy is hidden under this big baggy jacket. Yeah, The Secret of Nim was one of those films that like I inadvertently watched a lot as a kid because I was really bad at going to bed without background noise, even when I was a child. So I had a DVD copy of The Secret of Nim, and I would put that on as like background noise to go to bed to. Um, and then there were a few nights where like I just couldn't sleep, so I ended up watching it a lot. Uh, and I don't know, man. The Secret of Nim is a very interesting film, to say the least. There were quite a few times that I fell asleep to that movie and woke up like 45 minutes into it, and I would always wake up at like the worst possible moments, like the scene where the main character, I think her name was Miss Brixby, I want to say. Don't quote me on that. I haven't seen the film in damn near 15 years. Um, but there's a scene where she walks in to see Nicodemus for the first time, and it's just like him sitting on his chair with the glowing eyes, and like the fucking mist blows through the room. And I remember waking up to that scene a couple times and going, wow, that's fucking terrifying at 2 o'clock in the morning to wake up to that. I think what ultimately made me fall asleep with that film wasn't so much the film's content as it was the music, but there was so much good sound design in The Secret of Nim. Let's see. Thankfully, most of Arthur's form is hidden in this gigantic fucking coat, which I would probably do a more in depth study of if I wasn't just using it as a warm up. His head and his hair shape is basically just line, line, line. Okay, so closer to the head. But yeah, this is very much the core of Don Bluth's character design. You know, hot pinup girls, scrawny young boys, chubby young girls, the most bearish of bear men. The weird, like, what's the word that you'd use for them? Like the most meatiest of meathead jackasses, and then like just animals. Although there's definitely some weird stuff when it comes to animals with Don Bluth, because it's like, oh, there's an animal. It's one of three things. His animals are either like the most adorable, like endearing side characters that have so much visual personality to them. They're weirdly horny, but that's like if you've ever worked in a Disney studio, you've drawn horny animals for whatever reason. And then of course the secret third category, which is actual just nightmare fuel. We have Arthur's like really chunky scarf. See, the rest of his scarf from here is just like, or his jacket is like this weird triangular thing. But we got some sleeve action. Those weird little sock boots. They don't look like boots. It looks like Arthur's just wearing fucking leather socks out in the damn snow. So nobody cares about what happens to this poor kid. He's got this little cowlick on the back of his head. He's actually got a couple. They're like just baked into his hair, kind of. Also, weird fun fact about Don Bluth. His maternal grandfather, or I guess technically his maternal great grandfather, was one of the early leaders of the Church of the Latter-day Saints, and and he's also like a distant relative of Mitt Romney. So that's a fun little thing for you. Hmm. Arthur has no second eyebrow in this image. Probably because of the angle of his hair. Also, fun little piece of information is the Secret of Nim was Bluth Productions. So after 1981, Don Bluth stopped working for Disney because he had worked with them for like 6 years as an animation apprentice, and he had done a lot of like assistant work. He the first thing he was allowed to direct for Disney, I believe, was The Fox and the Hound. No, he didn't direct that. He was an assistant. He did a lot of like assistant work to John Lounsbury, who was the primary animator for things like Beauty and the Beast, Fox and the Hound, Robin Hood, all of which Bluth worked on as an assistant. He animated like specific scenes during his time with Disney. Um, but when he broke off from Disney, he created his own animation studio called Bluth Studios, or I think it's Bluth Productions. And the first full feature length film that Bluth Productions made was The Secret of Nim. Before that, their like big nominal thing that they did was a what's it called? Was an animated short called uh damn, I can't remember the name of it now. It was an animated short about a cat, but that's how they started, was with like a simple animated short. Uh we may or may not have an ad starting. I can't tell. My interface looks fucking weird. But we'll find out momentarily. This gives me time to find a reference image for Nicodemus. Yep, we have an ad break. Looks like that ad break is done. This actually isn't the first time I've drawn Nicodemus. I have a little. So when my ex and I were still together, she gave me a collection of like these little blank pieces of cardstock, um, which for a while I just used as like fillers for like Magic the Gathering proxies. And then when I was working at my old job, I got really bored one day and I brought them in because work was really slow because they hadn't done the whole return to office initiative yet. So I brought them in and I was like, you know what? I'm going to use these instead of using them to draw proxies. I'm going to use them to draw some tokens. And I thought about what are some cool like magic tokens that I could draw using like famous characters. So I drew Nicodemus as a pack rat token, and I still have it. It got knocked off my desk by my cat at some point. It's like right underneath my desk, and I can see it from where I'm sitting. Maybe I'll post some pictures of it. I made a couple like fun little tokens. I made a Nicodemus pack rat token. I made a Samurai Jack samurai token for my Wandering Emperor because I play the Wandering Emperor in my Pioneer deck and in one of my Commander decks as well. I made a Marceline 1/1 life linking vampire token, and I made a Finn the Human treasure token where it's like him swimming in like a treasure room, kind of Scrooge McDuck style. And there was one other token that I made. Oh, I made the Ice King's crown from Adventure Time as a monarch token. It's also amazing to me that Don Bluth is still alive. Dude's 87, and apparently still makes appearances at conventions. But, you know, I respect that. To keep resizing Nicodemus because his his body has so many like large forms and shapes. Just very much improvising his big, hideous, ornate chair behind him. No, just resize them to make them fit with the other two. I'm gonna merge all three of these onto one layer. Then, just to recolor these sketch lines, we will add a clipping mask, Change the color to black, and then there we go. That is still not great. It's not the clearest thing, but you know, this is what we get for quick sketches. Like I said, just wanted to do that as the warm up. I spent more time looking for reference images than I spent actually drawing, but you know, 3 drawings in 45 minutes, not including, going by stream time. Took me about 3 to 5 minutes to get everything set up, so we take that off. Somewhere around 12 minutes per drawing, give or take. Which, not the worst. From our layer, we are. Oh. Maybe one of these days I'll actually do an art study of Ed and Eddie's creator, Danny Antonucci. I expect that one to be a little bit more difficult on me specifically because my brain doesn't fully understand some of his design choices. Like his lines are very weird. Uh, his color choices are a little bit awkward. There's a kind of what I can only describe as there's definitely an organized chaos to the way that Danny Antonucci did things for Ed and Eddie that I'm not entirely sure I could replicate. Vibes based matchmaking. It's the best way I could describe that. Speaking of Ed and Eddie, outside of this art context, I was scrolling around recently on Amazon, and I was like, I wonder if there's actually like a DVD box set or anything for Ed and Eddie out there. Come to find out, one, yes, as a matter of fact, there is a complete series box set that usually goes for like $40 on Amazon, and it's currently on sale for like 25. So I'm very tempted to just like buy it just to have it because I have a physical media collection that I'm slowly trying to build more on top of. Like I like having box sets for either childhood favorite shows or shows that really spoke to me in some way or that I really enjoyed. Um, and for a while, I had it focused on just like, oh, I'm just gonna buy like all the anime that I want because a lot of the anime that I really enjoy are very hard to find as box sets. And there's quite a few of them that you can't really watch online because they none of the streaming services have the rights to a lot of these shows. Um, for example, I have a box set for the original Kino's Journey, one of the like crown jewels of my collection right now because Kino's Journey was originally produced by ADV Films, and I believe Studio Gonzo worked on it as well, but it was a old 13 episode anime, only had one season. It had two films afterwards, one of which was a prequel film about Kino's teacher. The other one was like a follow up, like a lost episode type deal. I don't know if there's physical copies of either of those, but because of that, Kino's Journey is a very hard show to find, uh, like outside of that. So I'm very glad to have a physical copy of it. Because now, if you were to go look for Kino's Journey, I believe you can watch it on Hulu and Crunchyroll, but you can only watch the 2016 version, the reboot, which was called Kino's Journey: The Beautiful World, which is, I believe, it's either 16 or 24 episodes. It's not that much longer than the original. Um, and I really liked that one too. I'd love to own a physical copy of the reboot because there's more of it, and it chooses. There are a couple of the stories from the original series that stay in the remake, but a lot of the episodes in Kino's Journey: The Beautiful World are stories that weren't included in the original series. So I would love to have it because it works both as a reboot and as just like a direct sequel to the original. Um, so Kino's Journey is one of the crown jewels of my physical collection. Um, I have a box set for Wolf's Rain, and Wolf's Rain is a pain in the ass to find. You can't find it on most of the streaming platforms because Wolf's Rain was produced by Bandai. Bandai doesn't really make anime anymore, to my knowledge. So the box sets for Wolf's Rain are very difficult to find, and when you do find them, they can be really expensive. When I bought mine, I bought it at an FYE in the mall of my hometown, and I paid for a used copy where like one of the disc holders on the inside is actually broken and doesn't like swing on the plastic hinge anymore. I spent $65 to get the complete series of Wolf's Rain used. And I only got it because the guy who was the manager of that FYE, was a huge nerd and owned that copy before I had it. He said he wasn't interested in holding on to it because he really didn't like how Wolf's Rain ended. Um, so he asked me to let him know, like, hey, tell me when you're gonna get your next paycheck. The day before, I'll go in because I'll probably be working. I'll trade in this box set and then I'll immediately put it on hold for you and send you an email to say that the thing's on hold. So I told him, I get paid on this day, and he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He put it on hold for me. I got the email because I was a rewards member with FYE, and then I went in and purchased it. Earlier that same year is when I bought my copy of Kino's Journey from that same FYE. I went in on my birthday, forgot that I had like a birthday coupon from FYE because I was a rewards member, and I bought my Kino's Journey box set. When I found it there, it was a used copy for like $15. After taxes with my birthday discount, I spent like $7.50 to buy Kino's Journey. So Kino's Journey and Wolf's Rain are probably my two big ones because I would be aggravated if I had to look for either of those box sets again. Also, the art on the inside of the Kino's Journey DVDs, like the individual dust jackets, are gorgeous. They have this really beautiful, like hand painted, almost watercolor animation. It's, it's a very beautiful series. Um, and then one of my friends for Christmas back in 2016, I believe, one of my friends for Christmas got me a box set for Avatar: The Last Airbender, which hell yeah. Never complain about having that series. And in that same year, my sister bought me the special edition box set of The Legend of Korra, which came with a concept art book for the series, which was sick as fuck to have. Um, I keep it with the box set because it's in like a metal like collector's tin. And my friend had purchased me the collector's edition of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which came with like a limited edition poster, which unfortunately got left behind when I moved from one of my previous places, which still upsets me because it was a really cool poster. Her shoes are also red. What else is in that collection? Oh, I have a box set for Hey Arnold, which is a just a fun one to have around. Another Christmas gift from my sister, contributing to my physical media collection. And there's something else. I have Gun X Sword or Gun Sword. It's it's okay. I kind of just bought it because it was on sale at Game Exchange. It was like a used box set and it was like $5 for the whole series. And I'm like, I watched this show. It was kind of cool. It's got some good voice actors in it, like Steve Bloom and Liam O'Brien. So I pretty much bought it purely because I liked the cast and because there were some really good like action sequences. And then like I think I've tried to rewatch it once or twice, and every time I've tried to rewatch it, I'm like, fuck, why did I buy this? Um, I have a physical copy of another series called Geosei Planet of the Beast King, which I actually legitimately enjoy the show. I think it's a really cool, like, little 11 episode deal. Um, my only real problem with Geosei is that there was a narrative choice that I didn't really like. The narrative choice being you have this main character named Thor, and Thor is basically a genetic experiment whose entire purpose is to be sent to this planet because this it's a planet where there are humans, but Earth has basically lost all of its resources, and the plan is for the government to artificially terraform this new planet. But in order to make sure that humanity can survive there, they basically genetically engineered a person who can adapt to whatever environment they're in and make themselves like basically make themselves the most ideal what's the word I'm looking for? The most ideal organism for whatever environment they're placed in. So the example they give over the course of the show is like Thor has a twin brother who dies in like the first 5 minutes of the show, and his you find out later that like because of Thor being this like perfect adaptation or this perfect adapting entity, that as a baby he was placed next to his brother. His DNA basically responded and went, the most ideal way to, survive in this scenario is to look like one of this woman's children. So he's not actually his brother's twin. His body literally morphed in order to, like, he basically shapeshifted to look like his twin brother in order in order to increase his chances of survival. Um, so that's the whole joke of the show is that Thor's entire purpose is like you are the sole thing that humanity needs in order to survive. So he's sent to this planet. The planet has like a pylon that has all of these people in stasis who are other men who were sent to this planet who are said to have like desirable traits that would make them ideal candidates for repopulating the planet after it's been terraformed. All of them are dead. They've been in stasis so long that their life support no longer works. He's the only thing that can do it. But over the course of the show, Thor makes a lot of like, for lack of a better word, he just makes a lot of fucking terrible choices, and he kills a lot of people in the process. And it's one of those things where it's an anime. You would expect it to go in the direction of, hey, oh my god, I think maybe I like killing people. Like you think it's going to be an internal conflict about, you know, he might actually just be a fucking monster. But instead, his internal struggle becomes like his internal struggle ends up being a love triangle. And the love triangle is between there's this girl Tiz. Tiz is one of the first people him and his brother met when he first got to this planet. And, she saw him perform. He became the leader of the tribe that she's a part of within like the first couple months of him being on this planet. And she's basically been in love with the guy ever since. And he's just like, no, Tiz is just my friend. She's my second in command, and she is just a very good friend and advisor. And, the whole show is just kind of her being like, hey, so, buddy, when are you just gonna stop fucking around and just put a baby in me, right? And then somewhere towards the middle of the show, you could see that, like, their relationship is kind of starting to develop. And then one of his other friends from earlier in the series shows up, this guy Zagi, and Zagi has a woman who's going to be his wife. I can't remember this girl's name at all, but Thor sees her and immediately goes, "Wow, she's beautiful. I want that woman." And the entire like end of show, like last 4 episodes, there's like a big fight to like duel to the death conflict between Thor and his like good friend Zagi, and their whole fight is about like, oh well, I want your wife, and it's like, really, this is going to be your internal conflict. Your internal conflict is going to be, I want to fuck my best friend's wife, and not just, holy shit, I've killed like 200 people to maintain my position, and I think I'm just kind of getting into it. Or they could have revealed some of like the things about his origin sooner, because all the stuff about like, oh, you're a perfect human specimen designed to adapt to whatever environment you're in. All of those revelations come up in like the last 2 episodes of the show. In 11 episodes, all of those revelations about Thor as a character happen in the last two. So I'm like, they could have just made those revelations happen like a handful of episodes earlier, so that way maybe his conflict could be that like, oh shit, am I even really a human? Like they could have done so much more interesting stuff with the storytelling, and they decided instead to go with, let's just give this guy a very very forced love triangle between the girl he's known for like the last, there's a time skip, and the time skip is like 10 years or some shit. So the girl who has been serving loyally as his like right hand advisor and the second in command of his tribe for 10 fucking years, who's also kind of like one of his closest friends, or this random chick who just shows up in the last 3 episodes with a guy that who he was also very good friends with. So it's like, this feels stupid. This is really fucking dumb. Um, so Gyosei is one of those anime that my recommendation, if you're someone who wants to try and watch it, is uh watch it, skip like 2 of the last 3 episodes, and then just watch episode 11. Because you the only thing that the other episodes are going to do before that is piss you off and make the whole ending feel stupid. And like the ending's kind of all right. It's a little ambiguous. They don't really accomplish anything. Um, but overall, like I think it's a good ride. I think it's worth a watch once. Um, Other things in that media collection, I have a box set for Speedgrapher. Speedgrapher is probably one of my favorite anime ever. It's got one of my favorite villains. Um, my favorite villains being Darsha from Wolf's Rain and this guy from Speedgrapher, Choji Suitengu. Um, and I like Suitengu just because he's a really cold, calculated fuck. And by the end of the series, the thing that he sets out to do, he does ultimately succeed in. I won't spoil that, but he does succeed in his goals. And I think the only real problem I have with Speedgrapher is that it does have a very kind of bleak and cynical outlook on life and the world in general, which can make the show kind of a bummer. Uh, because Speedgrapher, like, Choji Suitengu is the main villain in quotation marks, but the real villain of Speedgrapher is capitalism, and that's not a joke. That's just a fact. Like, the whole show is about how capitalism makes people do evil things in the pursuit of wealth and their perception of power. And we got an ad coming up in 30 seconds, so I will save my continued rant for after the ad is finished. Hey, she has a nice baggy gray hoodie. Take that opportunity to have a drink of water. Now the question is, what color do you want to give her for an undershirt? Let's give her blackish undershirt. So I'm gonna go for like kind of a tannish color for the boots. Buenos nighttime, jabroni. What's going on, man? Obi-Wan Jabroni himself has entered the chat. Welcome in, Gabe. Glad to see you. But yeah, I'm trying to think about what else is in my physical media collection outside of the aforementioned anime. Let's see, I have Speedcrafter, Gunsword, Wolf's Rain, Avatar, Korra, Hey Arnold, Kino's Journey. Oh, I have a box set for Bakano. Just got back from a nice Italian meal. Nice, nice. Where'd you guys end up going? Um, which Bakano I would recommend to anybody who likes weird supernatural shit. Um, if you've ever seen the anime Durarara, Bakano is the prequel series to Durarara, or rather, it's the sister series to the show. Which Durarara makes a lot of references to Bakano over the course of it. Um, Not only like subtle references, but there's a lot of just straight up direct references. Like two characters from Bakano, Isaac and Miria, show up in Durarara as background characters in like one specific episode. Um, but Bakano as a concept, it's one of those shows that I would recommend if you watch both Bakano and Durarara. Bakano is better to watch in dub because the show takes place in New York City during the Great Depression, while obviously Bakano is more Durarara is more contemporary and takes place in Tokyo. Bakugan. Yeah. So the way that Bakano is done as a show is very interesting because Bakano is written as, how do I describe this? It's kind of written like a Tarantino film in the sense that you have a very large cast of characters. Like every episode's opening sequence, instead of giving you credits for like who made the music and who did this and that, the credit sequence for Bakano is just showing you the characters and then showing you their names as though it's the intro sequence of a film and these characters are being played by actors. So it shows you like freeze frames of the different characters and is like, oh, this is so and so. Um, and the main cast of Bakano has something like 32 main characters. And every episode, the show is 16 episodes long. The first 6 episodes of the show are all episode 2 from the perspectives of all the characters who were there. Um, so to give some quick background, the very first episode of Bakano is literally like a prep thing where you meet these two characters, Gustave Saint Germain and his assistant. And Gustave Saint Germain is the editor in chief of a paper called the Daily Days, and Gustav is talking about like, oh well, there was this big train heist that happened recently. A train called the Flying Pussyfoot had a bunch of people get on it and start a hostage situation. But instead of it being a full-blown hostage situation, it ended up being a gang fight on a train of two enemy gangs who were both trying to take people on the train hostage. Um, and he starts rattling off like, oh well, who should our story be about? Should it be about the people aboard the Flying Pussyfoot? Should it be about Lad Russo, the leader of one of the gangs who's there to like, commit mass murder? Should it be about Shanae Lafleur, the daughter of the famous cult leader, whose people are there to try and like hold the people hostage to negotiate for the release of their cult leader? Or should it be about the unfortunate boy Cheslaw Meyer who dies aboard the train, or the famous assassin, the rail tracer? Like he goes down this list of like all these characters that it could be about, and it ends up being like the first 5 episodes is all the shit that happened on the train from the perspective of all the named characters who were on the train at the time and the events that led them to being on the train. And it's wild. It's one of the few anime I've ever seen that did a really good job of asynchronous storytelling, or non-sequential storytelling. Um, and it's like, oh, it's mob families fighting against each other in the Great Depression, except that there's like a weird supernatural element that involves like alchemy and this shit called the Grand Panacea, and there's this old alchemist dude named Zillard Quates, and Zillard is trying to figure out how to make the elixir of life, how to make the Grand Panacea, which he's had before, because it's made him and a few other people immortal. So at the beginning of the show, there's like a small spattering of immortals amongst the cast. And then amongst all of these immortals, there's all the immortals, there's two homunculi, and then there's like everyone else who's just fucking human. And then there's like a big like mob initiation for one of the main characters, Firo Prochanezo, who is voiced by Todd Haberkorn. And at this celebration, the wine bottles that were supposed to be used to celebrate get swapped by accident with Zillard's now completed Grand Panacea. So now everyone who's part of this of the Martillo crime family becomes immortal, and then a bunch of other characters become immortal. So the whole plot eventually, like the way the series ultimately ends, is hey, all the main characters of this show are immortals now, and we don't know where they're going to end up after this. And it's such a weird fucking series, but it's really fucking cool. Um, it's a very worthwhile show. I think one of the only named characters who doesn't end up becoming immortal is Lad Russo, which is a good thing because he's a fucking lunatic. Because Lad Russo's whole thing is that, like, he's a mob hitman who, even his uncle, who's the head of the mob family that he works for, is like, Lad, I can't be responsible for you. You're fucking ridiculous. And the first, like, one of the first scenes we get of Lad Russo in the show is him aboard the Flying Pussyfoot fighting with these like symphony dudes who are part of this cult who have like Tommy guns and shit who are trying to hold the place up. And Lad just like knocks the gun out of one of the guy's hands and just fucking beats him to death. Like barehanded pounds the guy's face into mush on screen. And then he stands up after beating the guy's face in. You get like a 3-second shot of just him panting, standing over the guy's body with a gigantic boner. And it's like, it's one of the weirdest scenes I've ever seen in an anime. And like, he has a girlfriend named Lua Klein. And Lad's whole plan with this is that him and his friends are going to get on the Flying Pussyfoot. They're going to kill as many people on the train as humanly possible. Potentially, some of them are going to die in the process. And at the end of it, when the cops come to stop them, Lad is going to kill Lua, and then he's going to let the cops kill him. That is his whole plan. Complete fucking lunatic. And he makes all of his friends, like, dress in these white, like, suits, like they're going to a wedding reception. And when he leaves from his uncle's office to go do it, his uncle asks him, like, why are you guys all dressed in white? What the fuck is wrong with you? And Lad tells him, my dearest uncle, you just don't understand. These white suits are going to make the blood look oh so pretty. And it's like, okay, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And every time you see him and his girlfriend, like when they have scenes alone together, it's just him telling her about like how great it's gonna be for him to kill her, and it's like it's one of the most he's one of the most unsettling characters I've ever seen in an anime. Uh, Primarily because like he behaves like a psychotic cult leader, but Baccano as an overarching story, really cool, lots of really interesting and endearing characters. Um, Isaac and Miria are couples goals because they're just Isaac and Miria are just like small time petty thieves, but they do bits when they go to steal shit. So like they always do couple robberies. Like they go to there's a robbery that takes place over the course of the show where they like knock the fuck out of some random mafia dude who's supposed to be delivering cash that day that they got a tip about. And their whole plan is they show up to where this delivery is going to happen dressed in baseball jerseys and caps. Like they show up dressed as I think it's Babe Ruth and there's like another baseball player of the era that they show up dressed as. And there's a guy sitting on a stoop nearby listening to a baseball game on a radio, and they're like, oh, home run! And as they're saying that, Isaac comes up behind the dude with a fucking baseball bat and just fucking slaps the shit out of him, makes him drop the bag of cash he's carrying, And Miria picks it up and starts running with it, and at some point turns around, like pitches a baseball straight into the dude's face. And it's like, is this the plot of New Capenna? It felt like it. It was more organized than New Capenna. It actually had a resolution. I don't know if it was a satisfying resolution, but I think anything is more satisfying than Magic the Gathering storylines these days. But yeah, Isaac and Miria, best couple in anime ever. They just rob people in goofy costumes, and like they don't even always go for stuff that's worth anything either. Like there's a point in the show where the two of them rob a candy store, unironically. They rob a candy store not for money, but for actual candy, and they rob it dressed as Dracula and the fucking headless horseman with like Miria wearing the pumpkin head, and they just walk in, put a gun in the guy's face, and tell him put all the candy in the bag, and they just do that because it's funny. Like Isaac and Miria don't do heists because they want to be rich; they do it because they think it's funny, and I'm like, that's the kind of chaotic energy we need in everything. And Isaac is voiced by J. Michael Tatum, I believe. Probably one of the best roles that guy has ever been in. But yeah, so I've been like window shopping around because I kind of want to get some new stuff for my physical media collection. Like I would love to have a I'd love to have a physical copy of like Ed Netty because I think honestly I think right now a $25 price tag for the full series is a pretty good deal. Um, there's another box set that I saw on sale yesterday on Amazon for uh the complete series of Courage the Cowardly Dog for like $15. And I'm not gonna lie, I almost snapped bought it right then when I saw it because I'm like, the whole show, $15? Fuck yeah. Um, yeah, apparently there's like a collection of like DVD box sets you can find called the Cartoon Network's Classics collections, which allow you to buy like it's Cartoon Network's iteration of something that Funimation used to do called the Super Amazing Value Edition, which is basically just like a super trimmed down box set. So you had like the old special edition box sets that came with like art books and stickers and all that other shit. And then Funimation did the Super Amazing Value Edition box sets, which were just very streamlined, where it's like, okay, what you get is you get the discs that contain the series, you get an insert advertising other box sets like this you can get with maybe a coupon attached to it, and you get an episode list. That's it. And usually you could get the whole series, where a special edition box set would run you for like, $60, $70. The value edition, you could buy the whole series for anywhere between 15 to 25, depending on how many episodes are in the show. Most of the box sets that I own currently are those box sets from Funimation, with the exceptions being Kino's Journey and Wolf's Rain, because Kino's Journey and Wolf's Rain are not Funimation shows, they're ADV and Bandai. And the one that I have for Wolf's Rain is Bandai's version of that called the Perfect Collection, which is the complete series. Because the way that Bandai used to sell those shows, they sold them in multiple part box sets. So Wolf's Rain was actually originally sold in two parts, and they were both like 15 episodes. So if you buy the Perfect Collection, you just get all 30 episodes in one box. And I agree, physical media is gonna come back because people are just if people aren't already, they will soon get very tired of not owning the media that they pay for. That's part of the reason why every now and again I check to see if I can find box sets for shows that I like, is because I love the idea of physically owning media. Like I like the idea of I like the idea of people coming to my place, coming into my living room and seeing like the aesthetic bookshelf that just has like all the DVDs and like box sets that I own of different shows that I enjoy. Also, I like the idea that, if the internet stops working or if I don't have internet for any given reason, as has happened in the past, I still have something to watch. And the stuff that I physically own can't just disappear because a server somewhere went down. And I don't have to pay a subscription fee. I buy it once and it's mine forever. The only problem that I have with that right now is that there's quite a few shows that I would love to have box sets for, but they don't have US releases. Um, Examples being like, I really love the show Toradora, but Toradora doesn't have a US release. They only have a European and a Japanese release. And because all the discs are region locked, I would either have to get a DVD player from that region, or I would have to change like region of origin on my PlayStation in order to watch the stuff. And that's a lot of work to have to do. But Torador is also more than likely not getting another release any day soon. Um, yeah, I have like a pretty steep wish list on Amazon just for like box sets I'd like to own. Like I have, all of Batman the animated series and like uh, Superman the Justice League Unlimited, and then like I would love to own all of RWBY, but right before the purchase of RWBY by Viz Media, everybody and their mother that had RWBY stuff either sold it or pulled it off of like the different online marketplaces, and now recently the stuff that is showing back up is 1,000 times more expensive than it was before, and that's partially because like there's a lot of questions about what's going to happen with RWBY moving forward still, and of course there's the whole thing that like the merch store is gone, and we don't know if we're going to get more stuff or when we're going to get more stuff whenever Viz Media gets around to that, whenever their shit with Warner Brothers finally goes through. So there's just a lot of uncertainty there. So if you do find RWBY stuff right now, whether it's DVDs, Blu-rays, other merch like figures and stuff, prices are fucking outrageous right now. And that does make me very upset, because I would love to have RWBY in my collection. Um, there are some other things that I have on the wish list right now. Trigun. I would love to have a physical copy of the Trigun box set. Um, what if we end up in the Blizzard world where an in-game collectible is more expensive than its real-life counterpart? Oy, that would be fucking terrible. Although, if that's the case, I might have some in-game collectibles in some games that'll be worth quite a bit. Maybe I should start preparing for that economy and just go back to grinding shit in Genshin. And I just want to test this out and see how giving May a pink backpack will look. That doesn't look that bad. The Roblox effect. Just been sitting here yapping about just random anime and like physical media stuff. I'm selling my League account for for a cup of piss and political secrets. Maybe if you say that a little bit louder, you'll be able to get Elon Musk to come buy it. God, I fucking hate that guy. I know there's like a whole thing with people, generally speaking, where it's like, hey, you want to do well on your streams and stuff. You really shouldn't talk about politics. And it's like, getting people, telling people not to discuss things that, frankly, we should have been discussing a long time ago is how we end up in these really shitty situations that we're in. Also, found a fun word yesterday scrolling around online. The word being ultra deprecarian, I believe the word was, which is like a Middle English term meaning somebody who speaks at length about something which is outside of their realm of expertise or knowledge. I'll say what I want, damn it. This outburst is brought to you by Dragon Shield. This outburst brought to you by our friends over at Cool Stuff Inc. Oh, there's a word for that? Yeah, I was surprised too. I saw it somewhere. I went and looked it up to make sure that it was actually a word. Apparently, there is. Yeah, ultra deprecarian is a word used to describe a person who speaks at length and with confidence about something about which they have no actual knowledge, or something that falls outside of their actual realm of experience or expertise. No, we're not duplicating this. We're putting a layer above it. And now we get to put the shades on May. Oh, I'm a fool. I forgot to change the layer type. Multiply. It's one of those words that would be better served replacing it with the offending party's name, like being a dick. Yeah, that's fair. I think using it to describe, a group of people at large is definitely. I like it as an efficiency thing, right? Like, you could say, these people have a tendency to talk about things they don't know much about, or you could just say this group of people is ultra predicarian. Like that, like I like it for the efficiency of that. But I think if you're talking about an individual, you could just point at that person and say they're just talking out of their ass. Fuck kink shaming. We should start actively shaming people for purposely spreading misinformation and just being generally fucking stupid. That's the kind of shame I'm here for. Also, if anybody knows some good non or like royalty free music that I can use for streams, let me know. I'm using a playlist off Spotify. When I posted the VOD over to YouTube, it got a slew of copyright strikes for some of the music that's on this playlist because I don't have the time to go and look through all of it. Um, but YouTube also did tell me, like, oh, don't worry, this doesn't affect your channel because you're a non monetized channel. And, the VODs on YouTube have had, or on Twitch have had some of their audio muted because of it. Just start beatboxing. Oh, I don't know how to do that. I've been deciding on whether or not I want to, when it comes to future, like, art studies for warm ups, whether or not I ever want to include Butch Hartman in the rotation. Right now, it's feeling like the answer is no, because Butch Hartman's a fucking lunatic. Um, Also, to be entirely fair, I just don't feel like Butch Hartman's style would be that fun to study. Because, like, you look at Butch Hartman's art style, and a lot of Butch Hartman's art is just like it's very reminiscent and kind of boiled in a very boiled down version of the more simplistic styles of his contemporaries. So like you look at Butch Hartman's style, and his is just a much more, I guess for lack of a better word, it's just a more streamlined version of like Tartakovsky and Maxwell Adams and Craig McCracken. Like, you could just go study one of them and just leave Butch Hartman out of the rotation entirely. What'd Butch do? Uh, Butch tried to start a Kickstarter to begin his own, like, quote unquote, family friendly animation network. And yeah, that's the Fairly Odd Parents guy. He went to go start, like, his own family animation network, and it was filled with, like, Christian propaganda type stuff. Ah, now we got an ad. There's some lines that I need to get rid of. Boy. I think the ad finally finished. In which case, to clarify that once again for you, Gabe, yeah, Butch Hartman tried to start his own, like, family-friendly animation network, but it was also, like, going to be filled with, like, a lot of weird kind of Christian fundamentalist propaganda. It was very strange. There's, like, a whole video on it. Wasn't great. Um, it's one of those things that sounded really good in theory until you started listening to him talk to it or talk about it. And a lot of, like, Butch Hartman's videos about that whole project sound less like, hey guys, I want to start a nice little family friendly animation network. And it starts to sound a lot more like, hey, come buy my weird books and join my forming megachurch. Yeah, Maxwell is my boy. Yeah, Billy and Mandy. Yeah, I think I'd just rather like study Tartakovsky and Tartakovsky, Adams, and God, I just mentioned his name, McCracken. Um, Craig McCracken, for reference, did Powerpuff Girls and Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. And I don't know, it'd be easier to name things that Gendy Tartakovsky didn't do, unless Maxwell did something too. I don't think he did. Um, you weren't here for the earlier rant, but uh, today for our warm up study, we did Don Bluth. And, everybody knows Don Bluth. I'll actually pull up the sketches for you, just for all intents and purposes. So for Don Bluth's study, we did Princess Daphne from Dragon's Lair. And then we also did, we did Arthur from The Sword and the Stone, the old Disney film. And Nicodemus from the Secret of Nim, which frankly, I feel like I should have picked a different character other than Nicodemus because his shapes are way too big and flowy, so I don't think it communicates very well. But, all three of these sketches were done in about 45 minutes, so. But yeah, we did Don Bluth today. Um, Next art stream, which I think next Monday I'm gonna do 2 game streams instead of 2 art streams. So next week when we do our warm up studies for art, which will be on Wednesday, I think for the warm up we're probably gonna do Craig McCracken. Honestly, the only thing that makes me sad about not doing a Butch Hartman study necessarily is not having the ability to do a study of like Danny Phantom. That's the only thing that makes me a little sad. That's fine because we could just do like a Danny Phantom redraw at a later point. We could give Danny Phantom the treatment that I'm giving Ed, Ed and Eddie. What are you, some sort of a gamer? So what I'm thinking about doing is like I'm gonna alternate things every week. So it's gonna be one week we're gonna do 2 art streams, Monday and Wednesday, because Monday is a flex day, and then the following week after that we'll do 2 game streams. So it'll be Dishonored on Monday and Friday with art in the middle. Um, and then I'll just alternate like that back and forth, unless I really, for whatever reason, one day just don't feel like gaming. In which case, I will just set up the art stream and just do that instead. Um, because it's my stream, and fuck you, I'll do what I want to do. Some days I'm just not gonna feel like playing a game. I'm just gonna want to sit here and draw. Part of the reason why I do that is for a couple of reasons. One of them being it means I don't have to change all of the tags and stuff for the stream in the stream manager. The other reason being it means I don't have to fiddle with wires and shit to basically reorganize everything to be my capture card being connected to my iPad versus my capture card being connected to the PlayStation. And so that's really all it is. It's just about what's easiest for me. And at some point when I get a little bit more comfortable and get into the groove, I want to start integrating Saturdays into the stream schedule, but I want it to be like bi-weekly, so only 2 Saturdays a month will I stream on a Saturday. But I want those Saturdays to be like special things. So I really want the Saturdays just be like more art streams, but I want them to be like collaborative streams with other artists. So, I'm gonna be like fielding some people and reaching out to other artists I know to see if they'd be down to stream on those days when I go to do it. Because I just think that'd be fun, doing like some challenges or trying out some like trends that are out there online, or like doing studies, talking to each other about like, hey, what's your history with art? Like, what made you want to do this? Because I think that's fun and it's just like a cool community thing to do, and I want to do more stuff like that this year. I was actually talking to a few people because I've got some projects I want to do this year, like charity projects, and I've got a few people that seem to be interested, so I'm looking forward to that. I'll talk about all that stuff more in depth as we get closer, but like I have some overarching stuff that I can go over very quickly. So in June this year, I wanted to do it last year, but frankly, I didn't have the confidence, the community, or frankly, I felt the skill to do it. But this year, I want to do for June for Pride Month. I want to do something called Fight for Pride, which is going to be getting together with people to draw characters, primarily fighting game characters, but basically any LGBTQ characters that you can think of. And the idea is going to be drawing those characters with their associated flags, and basically, like, I'm going to run a special on my VGen and my Ko-fi commissions, where if you're buying art that's like art of LGBTQ couples or characters, then if it's from my commissions specifically, 50% of the proceeds from commissions during the month of June will be donated to the Trevor Project. I'll also be running a donation campaign on Ko-fi to raise money for the Trevor Project throughout the month of June. And at the end of the month, all of the money that's raised is going to go to the Trevor Project. Um, that's my big plan for June. Then in August, I want to do another campaign since August is my birthday month. I want to do like another fundraising campaign for the Lilith Fund. The Lilith Fund, or the Lilith Foundation, as I think I've seen it called, is a women's health organization that specializes in like kind of plan. It specializes in like Planned Parenthood type stuff, and abortion services and things of that nature for women in states that have it. The Lilith Foundation is located in Texas, so I want to raise money for them and like basically try to like encourage people to raise money for their local women's health organizations or their local Planned Parenthoods, because like right now politically we are in a very scary climate for that type of stuff, and I think we really need to acknowledge that and try and like what's the word I'm looking for? We need to try and preserve these kinds of services, particularly services that cater to women and people in the LGBT community, because like we're in a really volatile political climate that's very dangerous to people that are part of these groups. So as a community, we need to come together and do something, even if it's just small things like just simply raising awareness that these organizations exist and raising money for them. Um, and then for Halloween, I kind of want to do a like Inktober type prompt thing, featuring like female presenting monsters from various mythologies, including the different iterations of the Lady in White, which I'm going to be calling the No More Lady Ghosts campaign, which is primarily going to be used to like acknowledge, hey, here's some weird fucking mythologies and like local stories that we have about like ghosts that are born from the vengeful spirits of women who died due to things like domestic violence, and use that as another fundraising campaign for like domestic violence assistance programs and things of that nature. And so I'll be gathering more information, more resources about that stuff as we get closer to the beginning of each campaign. Since I'm planning on doing the Trevor Project stuff in June, I want to spend. I'll probably start reaching out to people more and getting more information and like putting some prompt stuff together in May, just about. And I would really like the streams on. If I do like the Saturday collaboration streams during the month of June, I would like those streams to purely just be like charity event streams. Except that if I do that in June, I think I want to do a collab stream with somebody else, basically every Saturday in June. Instead of doing two, I'll do all four, and then I want to theme each of them. I don't know how I'm going to theme them yet. I just know for sure that one of those Saturdays will be Sapphic Saturday because it's alliteration, and I'm a sucker for good alliteration. Um, so yeah, I'm just trying to plan more stuff for this year. Assuming nothing else fucking stupid happens in my life where I won't be able to do any of it. So, unfortunately, for now, uh, a lot of the stuff is still tentative, but I would like to be doing some of these projects this year. Waiting to hear back about some job stuff. I messaged one of the guys yesterday to ask about it. He said the manager that they're supposed to be speaking with about my resume has been sick. And I'm like, oh, thank God, somebody else who has the immune system of the most Victorian of children. Maybe they'll understand my plight. I was also looking up some art books yesterday because I just want to I think I want to do like some more intense studies, especially for stuff like anatomy and like gesture drawing type stuff. So I was looking at, oh, what are some books some people recommend? And everyone goes back to the usual stuff. Andrew Loomis. Can't remember the other guy's name, but he wrote a book that a lot of artists use called, I think it's called like constructive anatomy. Um, One of the books that was recommended was Andrew Loomis's book called Gesture Drawing for All It's Worth. Um, there's another book that I added to my list yesterday. can't remember what the name, who the author was, but I remember the person who recommended it saying the guy who wrote that particular book was the person that uh, Leyendecker worked under, and I'm like, well, I love Leyendecker's work because his stuff is really just beautiful. His utilization of negative space is fantastic. Stan Lee apparently put out an art book a long time ago called, or an art like instruction book called "How to Draw the Marvel Way." So I'm very curious about that one. So there's just a lot of like fun stuff that I want to look into for the sake of like just stylization, just having more uh, intentional material to study from for the sake of like fundamentals. Because like yeah, I could use YouTube videos. I've used them before, especially stuff like Proco and Line Sensei. But it's a combination of like I want to go through these books and like learn stuff that way, like very, I guess for lack of a better word, almost classroom style to that extent. And also, it's one of those like weird feelings of like, oh, maybe if maybe if I spend some money and buy this book and have to stare at it every day, I'll self motivate to actually open the book once in a while. Um, I also made a little mental deal with myself recently because I was scrolling around on Amazon and saw some pretty good deals on a few things. So I made a deal with myself that if I land this job, um, and this is like part of a semi-ritualistic thing that I do that I've done since I started looking for jobs back when I was 16, and that was whenever I'm interviewing for a job or I'm waiting to hear back about a job, I mentally do this thing where I go out and I window shop for things. I look at books or like big ticket things. Like in this case, the big ticket thing I want to get is a new piano keyboard because I haven't owned one in a long time and I miss being able to play. So I made a deal with myself that says if I land this new job with the first paycheck that I get, after all my bills and other expenses are taken care of, I will go on Amazon and order myself one of these little like starter keyboards that they have just to start playing again. So that's my deal with myself is if you get this job, you can reward yourself by buying an instrument. And that kind of like making that deal with myself is usually a thing that I used to do when I was younger before job interviews in order to give myself the confidence to like present well during the interview is like the day before the interview or a couple hours before I'd go to a store that I regularly shopped at and I'd look around for stuff that I wanted to buy and just be like, "Cool, first paycheck at this new job, you're buying that." And then I'd walk into the job interview the next day, like, I'd walk in there dick first and be like, all right, what do you need me to do? And 9 times out of 10, I did actually get the jobs afterward. Um, I have not done that exact process before a job interview, basically since I started working remotely a few years ago. Or wouldn't even necessarily say working remotely as much as interviewing remotely. Yeah. If you're somebody who doesn't interview well for jobs, that's my big psychological hack. You ever want to give yourself a little confidence boost before a job interview? If you're feeling nervous, just think about all the stuff that you want to buy with that first paycheck. Go to a store that you frequent, that you get a lot of stuff from usually, or a website that you buy stuff from. Look for that big ticket thing that you haven't had in a while or that you really want to have in your house, and tell yourself, first paycheck, that shit's mine. And then just keep that promise to yourself. And then go into your interview, do whatever you're going to do, feel good about it, and then whatever the result is, you just keep that going. Um, Not only is it a good way to give yourself a little bit of confidence for the job interview itself, but it's also, frankly, it's just a really good like way to ease your own anxiety about it. Because then instead of going into the job interview thinking, "Oh God, what if they don't pick me?" You just go into the job interview going, "Man, I'm gonna buy something really cool after I start working here." And because you're thinking about that, it makes it that when you're talking with whoever you're interviewing with, you're projecting as though you're excited about the job, when in reality you're just excited about what you're going to spend the money on. Um, but shit works. Just just play little games with yourself. It makes a lot of things a lot less intimidating. Like giving May these kind of spring green eyes. Also, I don't know why today, but I went down a rabbit hole and ended up watching the Ruby Chibi series after a while of having not seen it. And they did like a Halloween special where, for whatever reason, Team Juniper dresses as the Scooby Gang. And I'm like, well, I have to, right? Like, I have to draw Team Juniper as the Scooby Gang. I think it really just comes down to I want to draw Nora and Pyrrha dressed as Daphne and Velma. That's really what it comes down to. Clipping mask, screen. Uh, I got an ad start in 1 minute. Once the ad starts up, I'm gonna get up to use the bathroom and grab a beverage. Oh, another beverage. Okay. So that was. Now, duplicate.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You know, this is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.
There we go. May is all set. Now we just have to do expressions for her. And we just have to do the colors for Lee.
Every day,
Hmm.
give yourself a present.
Alright.
Don't wait for it, just let it happen. Could be a new shirt
I
for
think I might wrap up because I'm starting to feel a little bit tired.
present like Christmas.
And because I don't want to do more of that for right now. So, I'm going to put on the ending screen.
Nothing like a great cup of black coffee.
And we're going to see if there's anybody that I know to raid at this moment in time. Okay, there's no one that I actually know online right now. Let's see what artists are in the art category. I'll just raid a random today. Trying to see if I can find somebody with a fairly low viewer count, but a nice style based on the thumbnail of their stream. Sure, let's go raid this person.
step ahead. And I wanted a future that could keep up, where I can discover what I'm good at.
God, I would get an ad right here. So wait until their ad ends. So yeah, we're gonna go raid this person. So yeah, guys, we're gonna go raid this dude, and you guys have a great rest of your night. Well, I'll say that once we actually get over there.